Hello everyone, back to today's second video. So we've done 5-day forecast. You can find the video to that here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit and it's above the snow desk, which has now replaced the pollen count. There's also the written version. You can get that from the buttons at the top of the page. It's going to be 5 days of change, starting off quite warm at the moment. It's going to be quite a lot colder though by the time we get through to the end of weekend. And next week, I'll let you have a look at 5-day forecast, see what you think to that. This video is going to be extending out beyond the 5-day forecast time frame. I'm going to go to the week to 10-day time frame. The Beijing Climate Centre has also returned after being offline for over a week, so we'll have a look at the latest from that model, taking us into November. We'll begin having a look at the stratosphere. So just to say that we announced at the start of Friday forecast, there are going to be some changes to the schedule at the weekend. The 8th winter 2017-18 update, which was meant to be next Sunday, a week on Sunday, has been brought forward. There's so much to discuss this year. So the 8th winter 2017-18 update will be on Sunday. That means that the seasonal model roundup, where we get something like 11 long-range models together, see what they're all showing for the winter. The second seasonal model roundup for the winter 2017-18, which was scheduled for Sunday, has also been brought forward. And that will be with you on Saturday, after we've got weekend forecast out of the way. So it's going to be a huge weekend of updates coming up with two massive updates. Seasonal roundup on Saturday with the 8th winter 2017-18 update on Sunday. Remember, it's all building up to winter forecast, which will be released on Sunday, the 3rd of December. So I'll keep plugging this in the videos over tomorrow and Friday, because I know some people probably won't be aware that the 8th winter update has been brought forward to Sunday, so we'd better get the message out there. Right, let's get on with today's second video. I'm going to start off with the latest in terms of the stratospheric temperatures over the North Pole. So this is from the JMA website. This black line here is showing us the temperature at 30 HPA, which is a long way up in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere over the North Pole. We've got the temperatures on the side and the months, of course, along the bottom. The grey line here is the trend line. So you see that the stratosphere is in a cooling phase at the moment. It'll bottom out sometime around December to January, and then start to warm up through the early part of the year, reaching its peak in terms of stratospheric temperatures in the summer of 2018. So the black line shows us where we've been with the temperature in terms of the stratosphere at 30 HPA since September. And really, they haven't been deviating all that far from the average on the grey line. It did go quite cold there in terms of the stratospheric temperatures about 10 days or so ago. Since then, we've actually ticked things up a little bit. Very slight warming has taken place. That isn't a sudden stratospheric warming, before you wonder. But a very slight warming has taken place in terms of the temperature at 30 HPA. And now we are bang on sort of the long-term trend. Remember, we look at this because there's a connection between the stratospheric temperatures over the North Pole and what's going to happen in terms of the polar vortex. So when you have a cold stratosphere over the pole, it means that you tend to have a stronger polar vortex. You've got a stronger polar vortex, then you tend to keep low pressure bottled up over the pole. And so the cold air is stuck in the pole, and you strengthen the westerlies through the mid-latitude. So a strong polar vortex essentially is a signal for mild zonal winter weather in the UK. If you get a stratospheric warming, particularly you get a sudden stratospheric warming, which is where we take this black line within 2 or 3 days up to there, always looks very, very dramatic when they happen. If you get a sudden stratospheric warming, then the warmth in the pole can move down into the troposphere, which is the boundary layer where weather is taking place, and that warmth can create a bubble of high pressure over the pole. It can create a block, and a block is how you push the cold air out of the pole and down into the mid-latitudes. Of course, it depends where that block is sitting as to where the cold air will be pushed out. Sometimes it's pushed out to us, but other times it can be pushed out into Asia, and other times it can be pushed out into the North America. So it always depends where the block sits, but we do keep an eye through the winter months on the temperatures in the stratosphere at 30 and also at 10 HPA, and that situation at 10 HPA right now. Again, we have seen a little tick up in the temperature there with that black line. Obviously, we'll be keeping you posted on how this is going to develop over the coming weeks and months. We look at it much more, actually, as we get right into the heart of the winter. This is meteoseal.fr. This is just showing the GFS forecast for temperatures in the stratosphere over North Pole during the next couple of weeks. So we're starting off just there. These blue colours indicating the cold stratospheric temperatures that we've got right at the moment. Let's run through the next couple of weeks, and we just keep those blue colours going there over the polar region. It's very early to be thinking about getting stratospheric warming. You can occasionally, very rarely, get stratospheric warmings in November, and we do see a little bit of a warming occurring there on the 10th of November, but it's way out from sort of the polar region. But as I say, you can sometimes, very rarely, get sudden stratospheric warmings occurring over the pole in November. When they happen, and they are very rare, but when they happen, they can be a signal for very cold conditions. I believe there was a sudden stratospheric warming in November 1962, centred around Canada and the Canadian side of the Arctic. And a few weeks later, of course, we know what happened in the winter of 62, 63. That was our coldest winter since 1740. Very bitterly, extraordinarily cold winter of 1963. So they are very rare, and you tend to see warmings of the stratosphere over North Pole more in December and January, really, than in the early part of the winter and the late autumn period. But we'll be keeping an eye on it anyway over the next few weeks, of course. So we'll have a look at the weather next couple of weeks next then. So we have a look here at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. So look at Cardiff. Today I've been asked to look at the GFS ensembles for Cardiff. And the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average in Cardiff, and what's going to happen over the next couple of days is that it's going to stay relatively mild down in the far south and southwest up to the weekend. Further north, we will start feeling a bit cooler. Over the weekend, particularly on Sunday, we do pull down some quite cold air, just temporarily, from the north. Then early next week it warms a little bit before it cools again from around the middle of next week onwards. It does look as though we could be going into quite a cool phase, actually, maybe even a bit of a cold phase through the first week of November. I certainly think we'll be at risk of getting some night frost next week. We may get a night frost on Sunday night into Monday. Oh, and dealing with precipitation as well. So a lot of dry weather to come over the next few days, through the remainder of the week into the weekend. Next week might turn a little bit more unsettled as a cold front moves southwards, introducing this colder air. That might have some quite heavy rain on it for a time. Though you have to say, even going out into the second week of November, which is just here, there's no real signal for a particularly wet spell of weather. It is looking quite dry, especially so down in the southern part of the country. These are the surface temperatures and air pressure ensembles from the GFS model for the next couple of weeks. So dealing with the surface temperature first of all, starting off quite mild, as I say, above 15 degrees Celsius and above 10 degrees Celsius with the minimum temperatures. That's very warm, really, for night temperature in late October. Bit of a cool down takes place over the weekend. It goes quite cold there, and also the temperatures are slipping a little bit under 15 degrees Celsius. And then as we get through into next week, what we find is that a gradual decline in temperature takes place. So through the second half of next week in particular, we're struggling to get maximum temperatures above 10 degrees Celsius, going really quite chilly indeed, actually, through the course of next week. And there is a signal for night frost as well. That's 0 degrees just there, so night frost coming on. And this is for Cardiff, quite a long way to the southwest, so further north, it's likely to be even colder than that. Places like the Midlands up to northern England, and particularly into Scotland, could turn really quite cold indeed in the second half of next week. As far as air pressure is concerned, so we're starting off around 1,020 millibars. We'll lift the pressure around 1,030 by the end of the week, and then we decline a little bit, then lift it again, and then a proper low pressure system coming through early next week to middle of next week. That lowers the temperatures, brings quite an active cold front, which will have some heavy rains behind that cold front in the middle half of next week, but we could get this northerly shot. Recovery in temperature in air pressure might take place then as we go towards the end of the first week of November and perhaps up to the second week of November. Temperature anomalies are looking still mild from the 25th of October to the 2nd of November. I'm expecting these to cool down. We aren't seeing much sign of it yet. I do think over the coming 2 or 3 days we might start to see some blue colours appearing on these charts. Will be interesting to see, but certainly from the 25th of October, 2nd of November, still coming out milder than average for most of Europe. East-west split in precipitation continues over west of Europe, UK, Ireland, France, Spain and Portugal. Coming out drier than average from Germany eastwards. It's looking wetter than average from the 25th of October to the 2nd of November. In America, things have turned a lot colder now in the east of the states. So an east-west split for temperatures. Warmer than average in these western states. Colder than average over in the eastern states from the 25th of October to the 2nd of November. Most parts of America coming out with drier than average precipitation anomalies. This is GFS then for Sunday. Remember, this is covered in the 5-day forecast, but what's going to happen is that over the weekend we're going to get a first little shot of air from the north. So by Sunday we will be feeling quite cold, especially so in the north and the east of the country. High pressure topbles over the country through to Monday. That could produce quite a sharp frost first thing on Monday morning, first time this season. Then on Tuesday, low pressure starts to move in from off the Atlantic. That could bring cloud and rain. Then we have this cold front pushing southwards on Wednesday. That has some quite heavy rain on it. Behind that, the wind begins to pull round to the north. By the time you get through to Thursday, there's that northerly wind blasting down across the country. The high pressure has moved up towards Iceland. The low pressure is in the North Sea. And we are opening the floodgates to that northerly wind. If you follow the isobars back, the air is actually going a really long way north, pushing right way down across the country. So still has that northerly wind through the middle part of next week. That's probably cold enough, certainly to produce widespread night frost when the wind drops out. And I wouldn't be at all surprised it has some snow showers up in the north and northeastern part of the country as well. By Friday, high pressure is beginning to topple back in, but we still keep the wind coming in from the north or the northeast. And over the weekend, this could be really quite a cold weekend actually, and it's bonfire night weekend as well, by the way. This is for 5th of November, Saturday before to Sunday the 5th. High pressure is over the country and it's within cold air, so that could produce really quite a seasonably cold bonfire night. One of those nights where you're going to have to bundle up perhaps with your thick coats to go out and see the fireworks. The high pressure continues there to Friday to Sunday 5th of November. I say it's within cold air, so you would expect some pretty sharp night frost. ECMWF is looking like this. So you remember yesterday ECM was not really set on this northerly next week. Let's see what it's doing today. So this is Sunday when we do get our first little punch of air from the north. Then the high pressure topples in for Monday, so that'll give us a dry day, but there could be frost to begin on Monday morning. Tuesday to Wednesday turns more unsettled with cloud and rain spreading in from the Atlantic. Temperatures probably returning back to average with that. And then through to Thursday, that low pressure is moving into the North Sea. There's the winds going into the north. So today, the ECMWF is going for this northerly wind, same as the GFS. Maybe not quite as potent at this stage as the GFS, but nevertheless the wind is pulling into the north here through the second half of next week, bringing colder air down across the country, no doubt with a risk of night frost. We finish up on day 10 looking like that, not making as much of the ridge for the weekend of the 4th, 5th of November as the GFS. So if you want a frosty, seasonably cold bonfire sort of weekend, then the GFS is the one that you should be rooting for. This is probably turning winds back to the Atlantic and bring cloud and rain in for the 4th and 5th of November. I'll just show you the extended GFS today because it does get quite interesting. Eventually that high pressure starts to move northwards and northeastwards up towards Scandinavia. That's very unusual. That happens, so that's how we finish up by the end of this particular run of a GFS model, with high pressure setting up over Scandinavia and the winds going into the east. That's very unusual to see high pressure doing that, especially in November, which tends to be one of the more stormier months. So some really interesting output around this morning in terms of blocking and in terms of potentially colder weather. And then finally, I did say that Beijing Climate Centre has updated for the first time in over a week because it's been offline, not sure what's been going on. So just very quick to run you through the 500 bit of our height anomalies, break it down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period takes us from the 31st of October to the 9th of November. Above average heights are out to the west, below average heights up to the north. Do something like that with the flow and with the jet stream. A lot of dry weather there through the first 10 days of November, but probably quite cool with high pressure out to west. That high pressure continues close to the country to the 10th to the 19th of November. Above average heights out to the west, also extending to our east as well. That could be producing quite a lot of dry but pretty chilly weather, I would have thought there. And then we go through to the final 10 days, which is the 20th of November to 29th of November. And it looks like the ridge is going further north then, going up towards Iceland and Greenland. Low pressure down to the south and the southeast, and I would have thought the wind there is probably turning into the northeast. It is a bit more unsettled, especially in the south, but it would be, I think, turning increasingly cold with that. Maybe even thinking a little bit about some wintry weather perhaps in the second half of November. At the moment, November is shaping up to be quite an interesting month, you have to say. After a cool, wet September, a warm, very warm October, we might be seeing something a little bit colder and more wintry perhaps occurring in November. We'll keep you posted on that. Right, been a bit of an extended one today with a lot to cram in. Hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to check out 5-day forecasts if you haven't yet done so. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.